What's good, everybody? Welcome to the Strip Coffee Talk app. It's gonna be a real serious discussion today. Some stuff I really want you to take notes on, write down, so you can be really precise about this and contextual about what's going on. Because a lot of people use this very loosely, and it's not fair to the people in which it's being used toward. When we overstand what we're talking about here. So let's open up with a quick definition from my system. Alexa, what is the definition of spelling?
As a noun, scallop is usually defined as any of the bivalve.
Stop. This Alexa shit be tripping me out. Alexa, what is the definition of spelling?
Spelling is usually defined as the manner in which words are spelled, orthography. For more, ask me to give you more definitions for spelling.
Alexa, can you give me the root word of spelling?
This might answer your question. Root is spelled R-O-O-T.
Alexa, the root word of spelling.
According to an Alexa Answers contributor, special means extraordinary, uncommon.
Okay, man. Anyway, so let's get into this. So we have a society and a time frame now that I hear people consistently saying, I hear a lot of women use this. Well, I'm raising the kid. I raised the child alone. I even hear guys, well, I'm a good dad. I raised my child. Nothing could be more from correct than any of that shit you just said. I hate to hear women say it because they take the credit as if they've done it on their own, when in majority of the cases they haven't. When in majority of the cases they weren't single parents. They were the singular custodial parent to the specific child and speak in subject. But they had guys and people around and uncles and brothers and nephews. They were careless in properly placing men with strong visual in front of their young. So then they turn to governmental assistance and things of that sort and place the blame over there for a decision that they didn't make correctly because they didn't take the time to keep their legs closed and they created a baby and then come to find out that the guy wasn't shit, but it ain't his fault he wasn't shit because it's time for some accountability. Why don't you take accountability for yourself being loose? You could have been loose and wore a condom. You could have been loose and forced him to wear one. You could have been loose and said no. So we're gonna quit throwing that shit on the man because it's time out for the separate and divide shit. It's time for truth and accountability and getting right to the grit of the shit. So today's grit of the shit is, what do you mean when you say you're raising a child? Because 80% of y'all are not raising kids. So I'm gonna bust your ass and go right in while I sip upon this why should remind me? Ding ding ding. Wedding cake. So we talking about the word raise. You say I'm raising my son, or I'm raising my daughter. I'm raising my kid to be this. I'm raising them to be that. Let me just give you the definition of raise. Raise as a verb is to move to a higher position. to lift up, to elevate. As a noun, raise is an increase in amount, as per se wages. Not one definition of the word raise mentions the welfare of children. So let me dig a little deeper, because we use the word. So I'm going to show you where most of you are lying. Per verb definition, to move to a higher position. Most of you are not moving your children to a higher position. To elevate. Most of you are not elevating your children. To lift up. Raise. Most of you are not doing that. So you say, what do you mean lift up? What do you mean to a higher position? Well, let me give you an example. And when I was discussing this with my bro, this is the example I gave him. So I'm going to raise this hand sanitizer. And as I raise it, the more I raise it, the higher or more elevated than I am it becomes. Now, your child doesn't work for you, so you couldn't be possibly giving them a raise used in a noun. You could only be meaning it in the verb state of mind. Most of you are not raising your child because you are not putting them in the position or positions to be in higher positions. Most of you haven't positioned yourself or educated yourself enough to be able to elevate the child to a higher position. Most of you yourselves have never been raised. And this is what the problem is. Because the root word of spelling is spell, you have to know that when you deliver these words, they have a certain frequency and energy that they carry with them. Thus, that's why you get offended when someone say nigger to you. Whereas I don't, because it has no vibratory effect on me. It has no energy bearing on me. So you'll say, I'm raising my kids the best I can. But you're doing nothing to build a solid concrete foundation to where you can stand solid while raising the child. See, so I used to hear a lot of times older people would say to us that their goal was to make sure that their children made it further and became more than they are. I used to tell my sons, I don't want you to be like me. I want you to be better than me. How do I get you better than me? Now let's go through some of these wordplay games that people like to say and people like to use. How do I get you better than me? To get you better than me, son or daughter, I have to step out of the box. Which means I have to become uncomfortable. Not me per se, I mean generally. You have to step out of the box because the things that are in the box are the things you know and are familiar with. You're not going to expand and grow and elevate until you step outside of the box where everything else is. You're not getting nowhere because you're still in the fucking box. You're not getting ahead because you're still in the fucking box. You're comfortable. I don't want to hear you not. You comfortable when you wake your ass up and you go to work. You comfortable when you wake up and you listen to what your girl or your guy saying, and that's cool. The furthest dream in your head is getting a good price for gas today. You comfortable because you done punched a little clock and you got a little time to smoke a little weed, drink with your crony, play a little video game, and don't build on shit. Go back to your girl, tap on the little pussy ain't nothing. Look, let me tell you something. You land with a girl and you're not building and y'all can't build, then you still wasting time. See, a lot of y'all so fucked up that y'all don't understand that when you're in a relationship, or that thing that y'all call a relationship, when you're in a union, you should be raising each other. No one ever should be in a position to have stopped being raised. It shouldn't happen. Now, although in your mind, you want to come out of that paradigm because the word that's been given to you in a sense to where it gives someone entitlement over you or authority over you because it sounds like parental. It's a word. It has the same power and frequency when used correctly. So one might ask, well, you talk this shit. Are you raising your kids? Well, as I've always said, since I started this show, and I'll continue to say, I have several children in several different types of family situations. So, yes, I'm raising the ones that are in my life. The ones who unfortunately aren't, then no, I'm not. But I'm accountable for that. Those who have never been, no, I'm not. And I'm accountable for that. But by no means will I let any of that affect the nowness of the children that I'm raising now that are among me now, because they need to be raised. Well, how do you do that? By showing them proper things to ingest, be it by way of food or by way of information or visual absorption. Meaning by taking hikes and going out to different places and showing them different atmospheres and different surroundings. Traveling. Now, I'm not talking about going down south. And I'm definitely not talking about going to sit with the enemy. Because I don't get that either. You talk about traveling, but the only place I hear y'all talk about is down south. Or you'll go over here. Motherfuckers will go and kick it with the poor white people so that they feel even equal. Fuck you kicking it with the poor dominant society who still, no matter what you say, on paperwork, he still is more of a man that's going to get more privilege than you when it boils down to it. But you want to be his buddy because he appears to be at the same level as you. Y'all fucked up. See, what it is some of y'all still need to be fucking raised. To even be able to raise. You understand what I'm saying? Because see, look, if that were not the case, then the older you are as a couple when you have children, the more successful your children should be if we go according to the things that society wants us to believe. That elders are wiser, which means that if you were wiser than you had a baby or a child, your child should never make the same mistakes as a younger person who has a child of the same age and is coming from the same environment. Your child should be that much more, ahead of them. But it doesn't pan out like that. A lot of y'all men still suckers for love and sucking on mom's tit to where y'all can't raise nothing. Just because you're around through the duration of 0 to 18 of a child's life don't mean that you ever took the time to raise them. How many of you done been to a historical museum or a historical national type of library, or the Vatican, or an Indian reservation? Or how many of you took a tour on the Underground Railroad? You see what I'm saying? So a lot of you say you raised your children, but you didn't. You helped them complete the task of becoming a fucked up sleephead ass slave like you. You comfortable because you gathered some information across the lines or along the way. It sounds nifty when in conversation with other people of lesser intellect. It sounds nifty coming out your mouth, but you don't practice shit. You have to raise yourself too. No one can raise you. Parents raise the child to adulthood. Then the child should have been taught then, by that time, how to collect and raise him or herself the rest of the way, with the blueprints that were given and taught and instilled by the parents. That's raising. To raise one's mentality and intellect to a higher position is to raise one. To lift one up is to raise one. To elevate one is to raise one. Some of you are just like the law book states, or there's some other doctrines that I'm going to force you to do the studying yourself, state that you're just a pair renting the space for that being before it becomes the being that can fly free on its own. Thus, I hate to hear people say, well, that's my son, that's my daughter, I don't care how old they are. At some point, let me tell you where your raising left you fucked up. It don't belong to you. It's of you and related to you, but it don't belong to you. No one belongs to you that you have. Nothing, no one belongs to you until they commit to belonging to you. Now let me get clear with that. So husband and wives belong to each other because they sat and they've come to that agreement. I belong to you, you belong to me, nothing will come in on my end, nothing comes in interference on your end. We're a unit as one. Together we are. Now you two belong to each other. You should be raising children. Unfortunately, due to your lack of education, lack of knowledge, lack of traveling and getting to know the country that you stay in across the board, different nooks and different crannies and different places, you're limiting that child. But you don't want to be accountable. You don't want to say, hey man, my child only gonna go as far as I know, you know what I'm saying? That's why so many of y'all sit back, I watch it, I observe this shit daily. I get so tired of hearing people agree with it because it sounds good when I tell them, bro, you gotta work for yourself. Make your own money. I don't mean become a drug dealer. But if you're gonna do that, then make the money on your own. Still. Whatever you do, make the money on your own. That's the only way you're gonna raise a child. Any other way, you're following indoctrination. Goofy. You're instilling or fortifying the things that you're letting the government mold your child into becoming. You're actually helping stabilize those ideologies and those thought processes and patterns and habits. You're backing it up saying, well, I'm too bitch to become man enough to teach my son or daughter the real things in the world. My son needs to know how to make a fire, a campfire. He needs to know how to shoot a gun. He needs to know how to hunt. He needs to know how to change a tire, how to paint, how to do brick masonry. He needs to know woodworking, electrical, just even the basics. Through experience, not just from me telling him once or twice, because he obviously sees me do this continuously, day in and day out. This is part of everyday life for Dad. These things exist in his paradigm daily. You're the example. Wake up, have a good meal, so that the child develops a sense of what's the combination for brain fuel in the morning, since you have them programmed to eating breakfast. Healthier alternatives at lunch. Don't go point out the McDonald's or the Burger King. Ask, do they like veggies? Would you like steamed veggies? Raise it up. Here, what you're talking about is BS. It don't exist. Raise is simply to elevate one or something to a higher position, to lift higher, to uplift. Get the shit straight. Raise yourself before you can talk about raising something else. Because most of y'all is still ground level. I'll be right back to the grit of it all. Stay on the app. I'm about to bend the spin and come right back on you.